We are live. Sunday Service, episode number 9. We got a pay-per-view card to recap. UFC 301. Pretty good card, actually. I didn't really have super high expectations for the entire card as a whole. Obviously, every fight contained a Brazilian fighter. More often than not, those Brazilian fighters come to fight, and they really did. I mean, main card really started off with a bang, bunch of finishes. Last two fights, I thought the main event was super good. Back and forth fight, a really underrated fight. I think when the year is done and we look at like main event pay-per-views, I think that's a really good fight. And then of course Jose Aldo getting the win. Everybody loved to see that. Brock Purdy's in the chat. How we doing? You think Erceg was robbed? We're definitely going to be talking about that. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. UFC 301 is going to take up majority of this show because that was the biggest headline of the night. And as far as a betting standpoint for me, it was a hell of a night. I was up almost 9 units. We hit the 5-unit bomb on Joe Anderson Britu, and overall we were just hitting a lot of bets. So good stuff there. Nice little bankroll builder that card was. I really felt good about the card overall. Really, the only big upset on the night was Vitor Petrino, absolutely selling. Don't know what the hell he was doing. We'll definitely talk about that. Brad, you want to pull up the IG? We're trying to get the IG live comments in here. Bro, Brock, Vitor Petrino lost me about $5,000 last night. I had 2 parlays in. Let me just send him this. I had 2 parlays. One I put in was like $250. The other one was $150. I think there were 7 and 8 legs. Vitor Petrino was the only leg that didn't hit. I would have made about $5,000. So thank you, Vitor Petrino, for absolutely selling those. It would have been a massive night had those both hit. But those were just kind of fun parlays I put together and was hoping to see something and did not see it. Let's try to get this IG chat pulled up before we get into things. I know people are probably in here. See that. We'll get it pulled up here just a sec. Appreciate y'all for joining. Sunday Service episode number 9. I know we're off to a slow start. We're just trying to get things figured out here before we jump into things. I want to make sure the IG chat is able to put their questions in their comments, and then we can start to get into the lowdown of everything. Because I know a lot of people join on IG. I don't want to leave them out. But I appreciate y'all for joining the YouTube chat. Can't get it figured out. I'll probably just pull it up on my phone or not. I try to get it on the screen just so I could see everything, so I don't have to go back and forth. And I like to talk to the chat because this is a live stream, bro. This is the reason that we live stream, to talk to the chat, to talk to you guys, the viewers that tune in. I want to give y'all the ability to interact, and I want to hear what you guys think. But Pantoja, how we looking? All right, we're Gucci. Get this pulled up. Oh yeah, that is money. Money. There we go. We got the IG chat pulled up. Appreciate y'all for joining. Ton of y'all in here. What's up, brother? How we doing? Shama in the chat. Kind of sucked. Did anyone else see that? That Pereira was like teasing that he was gonna make an appearance at UFC 301, like he was in the fighter meeting or something like that, getting his shorts, and everyone was like, "Whoa, is this dude actually gonna pull it off?" And like just 3 days notice, like, jump in to fight somebody? Really, really weird. I don't know what he was doing. Like, they were talking about getting him the shorts that he fought at UFC 300 to fight with at UFC 301, and everyone's like, "What the hell is going on here? Like, what was he doing?" But, obviously, it didn't happen. Um I don't know if the IG chat's working. Jeez. Hmm. Let's just get into it. Appreciate y'all for joining. Let's get into the recap. Main event: Steve Erceg, Alexandre Pantoja. Now, if you already watched my video on IG, I don't believe it was a robbery. I really don't, because it really comes down to one round, and I think it's super subjective, like whichever way you want to go. Is that like frozen or something? Yeah, there we go. All right, there we go. I don't believe Erceg was robbed. I think I don't know how you could say it was a slow and boring fight. Like, it was a back and forth battle. Obviously, Pantoja won round one. I believe Erceg clearly won round two. Then you look at round three, and I literally put a tweet out right after the third round. I'm like, that's a swing round. That's a round that could come back, and everyone's going to be looking at that round because it was really tough to judge who won it. And I truly believe you could go either way. I think Pantoja did a lot of good work throughout the round, and then Erceg landed a big elbow, cut him open. Pantoja wasn't too phased by it, got a takedown immediately after it, was throwing was throwing hooks right in between those combos, and then gets a takedown right after it, and then he covers his face to like try to see where the blood's coming from or something like that. And I guess you could say that's what really would point to it like being a damaging strike. But he didn't really get rocked by it. It wasn't like the fight was close to being finished. I think that's what most people are looking for, at least what the judges are looking for. Like, if you look at the scoring criteria, they say damage, but it's also like if the fight could have been stopped or the fight was in jeopardy of being stopped. And in that point, it wasn't really in jeopardy of being stopped at all. Like, Pantoja took it, he ate it, and then immediately got a takedown. Yes, he was gushing blood, but just because you land one elbow could mean you win the round, but I don't believe in that case it does because it didn't affect him that much to where the fight could have been stopped. So, in my eyes, right after that round, I'm like, that's a swing round. Could go either way, but I think Pantoja probably won it. Then we get to round four. Erceg clearly wins round four. We go to round five. I'm thinking it's 2-2 at worst for Steve Erceg. Could arguably be 3-1 if he wins round three. We go to round five. Erceg's doing well in round five. Super clean strikes. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. And then he shoots the takedown and gets out scrambled. And if you follow me on IG and you watch my story throughout the week, I posted a video of Pantoja where he took the back of Askar Askarov in just the most insane way. And I'm like, nobody out grapples Pantoja. Nobody does. Pantoja's the best grappler at 125. Nobody in that division is going to out grapple him. Steve Erceg tried to out grapple him. He tried to do that. And I'm like, everyone knows, even he knows. That was a mistake. That really just cost the fight for Steve Erceg at that point because it was at worst 2-2. And we saw it at the two of the judges' scorecards. One of them was just asinine. Two of the judges' scorecards, it was 2-2 going into the fifth. And then ultimately Pantoja wins it in the fifth round because he out-grappled him. He out-scrambled him, gets to the top, gets in a mount, lands some ground and pound, and then ultimately ends the round on top. And that's how the fight went, man. Like, I don't understand how you can really call it a robbery. It's 2-2 with a one swing round. If that's the case, it's not a robbery. Close fights are not robberies. Pantoja did not just hold on to him for the entire fight, actually outstruck him by the numbers. Landed 9 takedowns. So it's not like Pantoja was just going in there only wrestling. This is the part that really, like, I don't understand where these comments are coming from or not. Or how people can hate Pantoja. Pantoja's a junkyard dog. He's going in there swinging wild hooks, big leg kicks, big combinations, rip into the body. But then he grapples and then all of a sudden you hate him or now you think he's hugging. Like, Pantoja landed 125 significant strikes. It wasn't like he was hugging the entire fight. He was doing a ton of damage. I think the real thing that people see is he wasn't landing a ton to the head. I mean, he still landed 75 significant strikes to the head, but Erceg outlanded him to the head, 87 to 75. Erceg was definitely landing the more cleaner punches, but those combinations from Pantoja, they hurt, bro. Like, he swings with everything he's got. Big hooks, big leg kicks. He's going in there trying to take your head off or take your leg off. So I don't think it was a robbery by any means. Go to the YouTube chat. Charlie, how do people hate Pantoja, man? The guy's such a savage. He got no right beating some of these guys skill for skill, but always finds a way. That's what I'm saying, bro. I don't know how anybody could hate Pantoja. The guy goes in there and just delivers war after war. Like, the guy is 34 years old. He's been in the UFC a long time. He's a champion now. He doesn't really have a reason to go in there and just get into these type of wars, but he does it. He takes I don't even know how you couldn't respect the guy. Have you seen the shots that this guy has taken to the face and he's just unfazed? Like, he comes out to Many Men, and you know me, Many Men Parlay never fucking hits, but that's still a hell of a song. And you know the lyrics, blood in my eyes, and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be, and they trying to take my life away. That's Pantoja, brother. That's Pantoja. It, like, literally just takes anything that you throw at him and just keeps coming forward. Blood in his face, can't see. He just keeps coming forward. Guy's a dog. Brock Purdy says he don't hate Pantoja, but it's a damage-based scoring, and takedowns don't really matter, especially if you're being a wet blanket. And then he says if Pantoja's chin goes, it's over. I agree with you, brother. I agree with you. It is a damage-based scoring system, and it's not like Pantoja wasn't landing damage, though. That's the problem. Like, you can say it's a damage-based scoring system, but if you land one elbow, does that mean you win the round, disregarding everything else that happened in that round? I don't think so. I mean, it's subjective. At the end of the day, it's super subjective because you're talking 5 minutes of a fight, and then if a guy lands one elbow and a clean left hook, does that negate everything else that happened in that 5 rounds? I don't really believe so. It's a case-to-case situation, you know? It's not like you can just be it's not like you could say if a fighter gets cut and bloodied up, he wins or he loses the round. It's just not that easy. Meaty motherfucking hooks, bro. Big meaty hooks. Shout out to Lucas Tracy. Pantoja was eating those shots like crazy. Bro, I don't know how that dude's chin has held up because this guy does not have head movement, and he's taken so many shots, been in so many wars. He's 34. At some point, it's gotta go. And I thought maybe last night it could have been because Erceg he hits hard, but he also hits really clean. Like, he lands really clean shots. But Pantoja was just able to eat everything. Thoughts on the MMA guru guy? CM Miller in the chat. Honestly, I don't think I personally like MMA Guru. I like the content that he makes. He goes a little far on some stuff, but I'm not gonna knock the guy. Like, he stands by what he says. You know, if he was to make something and then apologize about it, I think that's kind of lame. But he makes it. He stands by it. He's convinced on it, and he's pretty convincing in some of his arguments. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I like the guy. I like his content. I don't even think Pantoja won, but that mofo, I respect that mofo. I agree, brother. I agree. Didn't even flinch on that elbow. Bro, how do you take that elbow to your head? It splits your head open. You throw a punch, you land it, and then you get hit with a clean left hook, and you're not even phased, and you land a takedown immediately after that. It's insane, bro. Pantoja's a dog. Pantoja's a dog. Balvar in the IG chat, you made $300 last night. Congratulations, brother, because I know a lot of people lost, and a win's a win, bro. $300, that's good. Props to you. Brosco in the IG chat, Erceg 2-3-4, but optics and Brazil give him the dub. Yeah. The bad part about that decision is also because we saw a decision in a women's MMA fight earlier on the night that, like, it was kinda questionable, like, could have been home cooking. And, of course, if you're fighting in your home country, the cheers are gonna be for you. It's always gonna sway the judges. Like, if you land a punch, it's gonna sound a lot different from the crowd than if your opponent lands a punch. It's just how it works. Home advantage is definitely a thing. I don't care what anyone says. If you got the crowd on your side, that's usually an advantage to you, especially if it goes to a decision. Yeah, Barbosa was definitely home cooking, brother. Kyle is a beast. Let's move on. I think we talked enough about the main event. We can move on to Jose Aldo. Actually, no. Before we do that, let's talk about the future matchups. So, like the flyweight division, super open, but at the same time, it's close. It's very, very weird because you have Pantoja, who's beaten a ton of guys, and then you have Steve Erceg, who was the number 10 ranked guy, got the chance because Pantoja's already beaten a lot of these guys. Some guys weren't healthy. I think Steve Erceg should probably be ranked number 1, if not 2, maybe 3. I think number 1 contender spot for Steve Erceg would make a lot of sense to me. He gave Pantoja the toughest fight, and I think he deserves to be the number 1 contender at this point. I don't think you could do an immediate rematch, but let's be honest, boys. If Steve Erceg wins 1 fight after this, I think you can give him a title shot after that. He picks up 1 more win, I think he's right back into a title shot. So who would you give Steve Erceg? I say you could give Steve Erceg a Brandon Royval. Like, Brandon Royval arguably could have got the title shot against Pantoja, even though he just lost to him last year. He just beat Brandon Moreno. He's the number 1 contender right now. Those guys are probably neck and neck. And I say you just make the matchup. Brandon Royval, Steve Erceg, maybe do it in Australia. I believe they're going there later this year. Makes a lot of sense to me. For Pantoja, I believe Pantoja is trying to take some time off, which makes sense. So either he waits to see the winner of those guys, or you could give him a guy like an Amir Albazi, which I don't necessarily love, or maybe a Makayev, which I also don't necessarily love, or if he's going to take, 9 months off or something like that, you could just let the contenders go at it. You make Albazi versus Makayev, put those 2 guys in a fight, and the winner of that maybe gets the next title shot. There's a lot of stuff you could do. It just really comes down to, how Pantoja or how fast Pantoja is going to turn around. I mean, Kai Kara, Manel Kape is also one that you could give the winner of that fight because I think that fight's trying to get made at this point. You could give the winner of that fight a title shot. But I mean, Kai Kara's coming off of 2 losses, so if Manel wins that one, then maybe you could go that route. But yeah, that's just some future matchups after that fight. Let's talk about the main event, or the co-main event. We just talked about the main event for 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes. Let's check the chat real quick before we get into Jose Aldo. You heard Dustin is retiring after this fight, JRZ. I also believe that, and I believe he wanted to retire. Kind of wanted to retire after his last fight. I don't think it was the matchup that Dustin wanted to retire off of. And now that he won, he gets the title shot. So obviously it makes sense for him to not retire after his last fight if he's getting a title shot. But yeah, I do believe Dustin Poirier's last fight could be on June 1st against Islam Makhachev. I think that's a very, very real possibility, and I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. Quick one on main event again. I say Erceg KOs Moreno. I think Erceg beats every flyweight, bro. I don't think there's a flyweight out there other than Pantoja that gives him a run for his money. I think he's super good. And we saw those skills at the highest level last night. I mean, he could have won the fight. And he was never really in any type of real danger. And he gave Pantoja a great run for his money. And Pantoja is someone that I think very highly of. So I think he beats everybody. Hayden, huge big parlays cash this week, but I would have hit my Hail Mary parlay if Erceg won. Damn. You should have hedged out or something. If it was really that big. But also at sometimes, you just want to let it ride. You made the bet for a reason. And that's a tough one. That you didn't get the decision on that. Kaikara is cringe as fuck. I agree, brother. I kind of agree. That whole camp is kind of cringe as fuck at this point. I mean, Manel Kopp kind of showed him about it. And then that guy's so damn funny. Manel Kopp is just listening to that guy talk is hilarious, man. Vitor owes me money too, brother. He owes me $5,000. Let's talk about the co-main event. Jose Aldo, Jonathan Martinez. Going into this fight, if you watch my video on YouTube, I pretty much almost perfectly broke down the main event, and I almost perfectly broke down the co-main event. So the two videos I put out on my YouTube this week were almost perfect representations of what happened in the fight. Going into this fight, I was like, Jonathan Martinez does not have boxing. He has leg kicks, he has body kicks, he has head kicks, he has good movement, he's got some decent grappling, some decent clinch game, but he does not have boxing. And I'm like, if Jose Aldo goes in there, can make him feel uncomfortable and unleash his boxing, he's got a good chance to win this fight. And I also said Jonathan Martinez is a guy that's been fighting at the apex for, I think, 5 of his last 6 fights. He hasn't even been in front of a big live crowd in a long time. But we saw that last night because he went out there and he looked gun shy. He looked like the moment was getting to him. He looked like he was standing across from a legend and was like, holy shit, I'm standing across from Jose Aldo. I don't know what the hell to do because he wasn't throwing anything. He's landed a couple leg kicks in the first round. I'm pretty sure they were checked. Maybe that was the reason he just stopped throwing the leg kicks. But he was just gun shy the entire fight. And once you let Jose Aldo start to get a rhythm, start to get a beat, start to get the timing with his hands, it's all downhill from there, brother. You're fighting an uphill battle. Jonathan Martinez never had a chance after that first 60 seconds when he went out there and didn't let Jose Aldo know what he was about. He just went out there and let Jose Aldo pick him apart. And I think Aldo looked good. I actually think Aldo looked like so much bigger than Jonathan Martinez. So much more built, so much more compact, so much faster, more explosive. He looked good. But at the same time, guys, Jonathan Martinez, he's beaten, one ranked guy? And it was, I don't even know if Adrian Yanez was ranked at the time. Like, Jonathan Martinez doesn't have the greatest amount of wins. And Jose Aldo did what he needed to do. Pretty clear 30-27. Could have finished him in the third. I don't know why he didn't. It was almost like he saved the guy from getting finished. He was like, I'm not going to, humiliate you in front of this Rio crowd and knock you out. I'll take you down and I'll take my decision win. Maybe he bet on himself by decision. We don't know. But Jose Aldo looked good. I don't know that it's one of these spots where you can push Jose Aldo into title contention, though. That's what a lot of people are saying. They're like, Jose Aldo can skip the line and fight Sean O'Malley. Yeah, I guess based on, his credentials, him being the legend that he is, sure. But wouldn't you want to give him one more tougher test just to see? You don't want to throw him against Sean O'Malley, and then Sean O'Malley just dances on him. And then Sean O'Malley's like, yeah, I beat Jose Aldo. I actually dusted him. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe the UFC wants to do that, and they're like, we wanted to build Sean O'Malley even more. Let's give him Jose Aldo, and then we can let Sean O'Malley just dance on Jose Aldo and then just build his superstardom even more. Look at this guy. He just danced on this legend Jose Aldo. Because that's what I think is going to happen. If they match up Sean O'Malley and Jose Aldo, I think Sean O'Malley dances all over and pieces him up. Because the way that Jose Aldo fights, very stationary. It's almost like a Cheeto Vera-esque. Stationary, a lot of boxing, a lot of leg kicks. We saw it. Sean O'Malley would dance on Jose Aldo. I firmly, firmly believe that. I don't think Jose Aldo has a chance in that fight. Martinez had no answer for the old King Aldo. I agree. Hayden, quick picks for the fight night after the event recap? Yes, I agree. Let's do it. Let's do it, Larry. If we get there, I'll skim over the card at the end of the UFC 301 recap. Aldo looked okay, but I don't see him as a title contender. I agree, brother. See, if they just try to rush Aldo into title contention or a title fight, I think they're just using him at that point. I do. I think it might sound terrible to say, but I think they're using him. Now, we don't even know if Jose Aldo is going to come back and fight in the UFC at this point because it was the last fight on his contract. Maybe he doesn't even stay in the UFC. Maybe he just does whatever he wants to do. But if he does stay in the UFC and they rush him into a title shot or title contention, it almost feels like they're using him for his name to build up some of these younger fighters that they can use further into the future to be like, yeah, this guy beat Jose Aldo. It's tough to say, but I think it's kind of reality. So what do you do with Jose Aldo at this point? I think you give him somewhat fun fights against older guys. I don't mean like washed up guys. I don't want to say Dominic Cruz is washed up. But who's really looking at it to be like Jose Aldo versus Dominic Cruz? Oh, yeah. Maybe the old heads, but I'm not an old head. And I'm going to give him an older guy, but I don't really think it's, a terrible fight. I think Jose Aldo should fight Henry Cejudo. Cejudo's ranked what? Number 5, number 6 at this point. Jose Aldo just beat the number 12 guy. You can't jump him up to a top 3 matchup or a title fight. You give him Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo's last 2 losses, Merab Dvalishvili, Aljamain Sterling. And the Aldo fight was super competitive, and Henry Cejudo won the first round against Merab. I don't think Cejudo's completely washed. I think he's still got the skills. Henry Cejudo is a champion, or an ex-champion. Jose Aldo is an ex-champion. And they're both later in their careers. I think it makes a lot of sense. Henry Cejudo, Jose Aldo, that's a perfect matchup to make. Cejudo got dog walked by Merab too. Let my ass up. That could be a good fight. Aldo versus Henry. See? I think it makes sense, bro. Cejudo kills Jose. You hate to say that? I don't think he kills him, bro. I think that would be a close, competitive fight. Because Jose Aldo has great takedown defense. Henry Cejudo loves to wrestle. I think Jose Aldo could stuff those takedowns. Then it's on the feet. And you'd probably give the edge to Jose Aldo. I think it's a winnable fight for Jose Aldo. But at the same time, Cejudo's not washed. He's good. Always has good game plans. And he's very capable of going in there and getting a win over Jose Aldo. So I think that's a great matchup to make. Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo, book it. I don't even want to talk about what's next for Jonathan Martinez. See, Jose fucks up Henry. Some people in the chat agree with me. I don't really think he fucks him up, but I think it's a close fight. Cejudo versus Aldo, the winner faces the winner of Jan versus Cheeto. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It's good stuff there in the chat from Larry. Let's move on. Anthony Smith pulling it off against Vitor Petrino, man. Anthony Smith on paper was in full display last night. I could not believe my eyes when Vitor Petrino was working Anthony Smith on the feet and then decides, let's shoot a takedown. And not only did he shoot that takedown, he stuffed his head into the armpit of Anthony Smith. And not only did he do that, he picked him up, dropped Anthony Smith on his back, and let Anthony Smith guillotine choke him to pull off a massive upset. What is this man, Vitor Petrino, doing? Has the juice gotten to him? We need an IQ test on Vitor Petrino because that was one of the dumbest moves he could have made. The only thing dumber, I think, would be to, I don't know, maybe give him like a leg or something like that. Like that, no, that was the dumbest move, okay? You're literally giving him your head, picking him up, wrapping his legs around you so that he can get it in tighter, so that he can hold on to it. And then you're setting him down to the ground to where he can lock up his legs to where you cannot get out, and you're barely fighting the hands. This guy is dumb. IQ test, please. Please. I don't know if he bet on Anthony Smith or he felt bad for the guy, but good Lord, you should not be going in there and losing to Anthony Smith if you're going to be anything good in the light heavyweight division. Just keep it a buck. You're undefeated. You're a massive favorite. Everyone knows you win this fight on the feet. You have a good jab. You don't really even have to do much on the feet, and you still beat Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith hasn't looked good on the feet in a long time. And you just gave him the fight. Just gave him the fight, man. Petrino some Sudoku and some chess classes. He needs to work on his IQ. Game plan. Fucking juice head. Oh, that's great. I love it, Larry. He looked like a beginner. I was expecting Anthony Smith to get slept. Yeah, that was just asinine stuff. I mean, it's like hard to even give Anthony Smith credit for that. Like, I don't even hate Anthony Smith. But it's hard for me to be like, yeah, he really went out there and showed out. Because it feels like Petrino literally just gave it to him. And moving forward, I'm like, I don't even think you can give Anthony Smith like a jump up fight. Like, he's number 10 right now. He just beat an unranked Vitor Petrino who gave him the fight. It's not even like you could say Anthony Smith, wow, what a great performance. Let's give him a top 5 guy. I don't even think you can do that. Like, it almost feels like that was a fight that didn't even happen. You know, like Anthony Smith, at this point, it's like I would give him another guy that's barely on the edge of the rankings. I don't think he should keep fighting ahead of himself. That doesn't make sense to me. It wasn't really like a crazy performance by the guy. Yeah, Smith just got handed a win at that point. It's really, I don't like to take away from fighters when they get a win, especially not Anthony Smith, because like he gets a lot of hate online. I generally don't dislike the guy. Like the guy, I enjoy watching or listening to him talk about fights. It's pretty smart when it comes to that. Kind of entertaining with some of his takes, but it doesn't even feel like he won that fight. Like it just felt like he got a gift handed to him on a silver platter. Like, here, take my neck, Anthony. I know you've been through a lot lately. I'm gonna give you my undefeated record. Here you go. Here's my neck. Just wrap your legs around me and squeeze, and you'll get a dub. And you'll feel good. Maybe Vitor Petrino is just that nice of a guy. Maybe he is, but crazy stuff. Moving along, Michel Pereira, Ihor Potieria. It's about time Michel Pereira gets a ranked opponent because the way he's starching these dudes that are outside the rankings is just downright disrespectful. 3 straight, I believe it's 3 straight. First round finishes in under a minute, or I guess under 70 seconds. First one was 1:06, second one was 1:04, and now he just finished Ihor Potieria in 54 seconds. Yeah, he needs a ranked fight. Guy's explosive, he's fast, he's powerful. I don't know what the hell Michel Pereira was doing, backflipping. I don't even think he knew what he was doing backflipping. I don't know what goes on in his mind. At some point, man, if you're backflipping and kicking dudes in the face, it's got to come back to haunt you, okay? At some point. He did the same thing to Nico Price. I think his like foot or almost, I think his toe almost like went into his eye. Ref didn't do anything about it. Did it last night. The shin hit the forehead or the side of the head of Ihor and then guillotined him. It's not legal, but at the same time, UFC's like, shit was dope, man. We ain't gonna take that away from him. And for good reason, man. It was exciting. It was exciting. Pereira needs a ranked fight, though, and I think you give him Roman Dolidze. Dolidze's older. Pereira's a guy that I think could probably go far. Just the athleticism. He's tough to deal with. So give him Roman Dolidze. That's a good fight. Maybe you could make it a main event of a fight night, something like that. But Roman Dolidze, Michel Pereira, sign me up. Moving along. Kyle Barrio, Paul Krieg. Paul Krieg. I like the guy. I do. But I don't know what this man has been training. Like, how have you been in the UFC for that long? How have you been training mixed martial arts for that long? And you're still that bad on the feet? Like, I genuinely want to know, what is Paul Craig doing on a day-to-day basis in the gym? Because it surely ain't sparring. The guy threw basically only body kicks. Didn't want to engage with the hands whatsoever. I mean, we all know what Paul Craig wants to do. He wants to play with you on the ground in his guard. And the blueprint's out at this point. Nobody's going to go to the ground with you, Paul. So at some point, you're going to have to learn some stand-up or at least learn how to get the fight to the ground other than pulling guard. So what are you doing in the gym, Paul? It's not sparring. It's not working on your head movement. It's not working on your boxing. I don't know where you could go to a gym and they allow you to just get away with keeping your chin in the air or throwing a body kick with your chin like this. It just doesn't happen. No gym I've ever been to allows you to do that. They always tell you, tuck your chin. Throwing a body kick, you keep the chin down. If somebody throws a punch at you, don't just lunge away like this. I don't know what's going on with Paul Craig, but it just seems like at this point he's never going to figure it out. So, yeah, that's Paul Craig. I mean, I guess a good win for Kyle. Like, is knocking out Paul Craig really that great of a win at this point? I was kind of really hoping for Kyle to go in his guard just because there's like always a sense of like, Paul Craig could maybe pull it off. There's always that sense. But then if the fighter doesn't fall into Paul Craig's type of game, that's how it looks. Paul Craig gets knocked out. So, if you're fighting Paul Craig, just don't play around with him on the feet, or don't play around with him on the ground and keep it on the feet. You're gonna win. You're gonna knock him out. That's what Kyle did. Good win for him. Moving along. We don't got to spend too much time on the prelims unless you guys really want me to or not. Larry in the chat, like if you're that legit on the ground, Craig would be working on his striking instead of just getting clipped every fight. I agree. Like if you're that good on the ground, is that the only thing you're doing in the gym is like working on your ground game, or are you even sparring at all? Are you hitting pads? Are you working on your head movement or anything? Like I'm genuinely interested, like what this guy's doing in the gym, because it ain't working, brother. Prelims, Joe Anderson, Brito, cashed my 5-unit bet with the doctor stoppage cut on the shin. I mean, he was working Jack Shore just out physical. I don't even know how you say that. Outworking him. Like just being more physical against the cage, ripping a ton of leg kicks. And, bro, I mean, that cut was pretty nasty. I don't know if they really should have stopped it, but I can understand why. Like, the cut was probably, like, that big. Like, it was kind of big. It was gushing blood. And if you let that fight go on, he's probably just going to end up gushing blood even farther. Like, I don't know what the reason was, if they thought he had a broken leg or what. But I guess they stop it. Maybe that's just because they're in Brazil. But I don't think that fight was going to go any other way. I think Brito was going to win it. Maybe could have got a stoppage after that by leg kicks. I don't know why he just didn't keep kicking the leg. He actually went into the clinch after landing that. He could have TKO'd him with leg kicks probably. Larry in the chat. Hayden, how did Matty react when Craig lost? Well, there is a reaction video on his page. It wasn't really like a big reaction because it never stood a chance. So once Paul Craig got knocked out, he was like, "Yeah, that just happened. He just lost a bag," and then proceeded to get pretty drunk. So yeah, huge cut on the shin, gets easily infected. Maybe that was the reason. I could see that. It's good insight there, Larry. Moving along. Yasmin Lucindo, Carolina, don't really need to talk about it. Oral by Brenner was a fight everyone was looking forward to. And Oral by looks good, man. I honestly thought he could have knocked him out in like the first round. He landed like everything he was landing on Brenner almost looked like he was going to put him out. And then he would just shoot a takedown. That's just what the Mammoth Man defaults to. Doesn't matter how hard he hits you. He's going to default to shooting a double leg takedown. And he just rinsed and repeat. How many takedowns did he land? Only 5 officially. I thought he landed more than that. But it seemed like he was going for a ton. How many did he attempt? 17. Attempted 17 takedowns. That's wild. But props to Brenner for surviving. But, man, he just got swarmed. And, yeah, he was gassed. He was absolutely gassed. Both guys were pretty tired, but you could tell Brenner was gassed out. Just probably has never had to work that hard to defend that many takedowns over and over and over again. Maybe the weight cut played a factor, but, yeah, Brenner had nothing left. But props to him for surviving. Yeah, it looks like a drunk brawl. I agree. Drakkar close, Joaquim Silva. I talked to Drakkar, or I messaged him earlier today, and he himself was like, I don't know what I was doing in there. I could have made that a lot easier. I mean, he won the first round pretty clear, looked really good on the feet. Round number 2, starts to hold him up against the cage, does some good work in the clinch. 1 round 2, and then it goes to round 3, and he gets caught in that gilly, and then he just flies Silva back. And I asked him, I was like, were you trying for another slam KO? He sent me a video of a guy doing the same thing where the guy has the gilly, he's wrapped around his waist, he's standing, flies him backwards, kind of turns to an angle, and the head hits the canvas and he gets knocked out. So he was like, that's what I was trying to do. And I'm like, I thought you were going for another slam knockout. Because let's not forget, like, his last fight, he had that slam knockout fighting out of the armbar, gets a $50K bonus. He's like, shit, let's do it again. Goes backwards. I know a lot of people said it was dumb, but it actually ended up working. Like, he got out of the mounted guillotine. So then he got back up, then he got dropped, and then he held on. He got the win by decision. So shout out Drakkar. It's one of the guys. And I believe he wants to fight Beneil Dariush next. So that would be a sick fight to see next up. Joaquim, takedown defense was solid. He looked real strong in the clinch. Yeah, the problem is with Silva is he's so content to get pushed up against the cage. We saw it again in the Clay Guida fight, even in the Arman Sarukian fight. Like, he will just sit on the cage and he'll defend the takedowns, but he's never working to, like, get out of it. That's how Drakkar won the second round. Just gave him a round, basically. Doesn't work to get off the cage. Big flaw for Joaquim Silva. Mauricio Ruffy, Jamie Malarkey. I was betting against Jamie Malarkey's chin, and I will always say that is a damn good bet. Because that chin has been going for a while, and it ain't ever coming back. Especially not against my man Mauricio Ruffy. Roof. Bro, the shots he was landing, super clean. The guy is a really good striker. And then he just for shits and giggles, landed that, like, scissor sweep. Didn't do anything with it. But I think he just did it just to show that he could do it. Ultimately landed I mean, it was like a flurry. It was like a right hand, flying knee, and then just a bunch of punches in a row. And, yeah, the guy's a really good prospect. Love to watch him fight. And at 155, he's got a hell of a frame on him. Like, Jamie Malarkey's usually a big 155er. Ruffy looked bigger than him, looked faster, sharper. The guy's got really good instincts too, so Ruffy's a real problem. Down the card, Gianni Barbosa, Ernesto Caracate. Not much to say on that one other than I don't know how the hell Gianni Barbosa did not cinch up that rear naked choke in round one. She had the arm completely around. She had the offhand was doing something else, but she had the arm completely around. And then she tried to go for I think they call it like a cable grip. I don't know. I'm not a jujitsu player. But she should have locked that up. Get into round two. That was the swing round. I thought it probably should have went to Karakate based on damage. It doesn't. It goes to Gianni Barbosa. That was some home cooking. Ishmael Bonfim, Vince Pichel. Bonfim's good. He's really sharp. And I thought Vince Pichel would just be too tough for Bonfim to finish him. Because the thing about Bonfim, different than his brother Gabriel. We're talking about Ishmael. Ishmael's pretty patient. He really likes to set up his strikes, and he doesn't go on these crazy wild flurry type of combinations. His brother Gabriel is a little bit more sporadic, really hunts the finish. Ishmael's a little bit more patient. He just did everything he needed to do, uh, to get that win because he was hitting Vince with some big shots. But Vince is just tough. He's a guy he's 41, but he hasn't been in really any wars. He's not really a super active guy. He's only had 17 professional fights. Actually had less professional MMA experience than Ishmael Bonfim at that point. So I think he was durable to get it, or durable enough to make it to a decision. I had a bet on Bonfim by decision. We cashed that. But yeah, that was kind of a layup for Bonfim. And then the first fight of the night, still can't get over this one, man. I can't believe Costa didn't get that sub. Like I didn't expect him to have that much success on the feet, but he landed those leg kicks, hurt him there, and then pretty much just softened him up. Thought he could have grabbed the neck to cash us the submission bet, but ultimately goes for the ground and pound. And a good win for Alessandro Costa. Costa's a guy that I rate pretty highly. I really like his skills. And he won a round against Steve Erceg. We also saw how good Steve Erceg was last night. Like, the guy's good. I think Costa will be ranked pretty soon here. Flyweight's not a super deep division, so he'll be a good fighter. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Let's look at the chat, because that's pretty much the UFC 301 recap. We talked about the main event, how it wasn't a robbery. Talked about Jose Aldo, what to do with him next. Talk about the rest of the card, Petrino's meltdown, Pereira's, everything. We talked about everything basically on UFC 301. I can jump into just some quick thoughts about next week's card, and then we can also answer some chats here. But we got about 10 minutes left before we hop out of here. So I'll open it up to the chat. If not, I'll jump into this UFC St. Louis card, which actually is pretty solid. Yeah. Who saw Canelo get dog walk last night? I had no idea. I didn't even look at what was happening in the Canelo fight. Did he win? I don't even know. Yeah, he won. 12-round decision. I don't know. Boxing's just not really, what was Canelo like? Minus 700, something like that. So it's just not really something that can intrigue me too much. Much rather watch the UFC. Yeah, he won. You saying he got dog walk for what reason, brother? If he won, I guess maybe it was a closer fight than you thought. Larry in the chat's giving his picks. He says Lewis, Ruzaboyev, Rebecca, Woodson, Despain, McKinney, Goff, Jusset. Those are your picks so far. Thoughts? Let's just talk about. Go real quick. So I don't want to get into like a full breakdown for like every single one of these, but we could just go through them real quick. Maybe we just talk about the main card. Yeah, no, let's just jump into it. Derek Lewis, Rodrigo Nascimento. I think Derek Lewis can win. I don't think Nascimento is really that good. He's got decent boxing. Decent takedown game. I think Derek Lewis could probably spark him. Joaquin Buckley, Nursultan Ruzaboyev. I think that's a tough fight for Buckley just because Ruzaboyev hits hard. Buckley's been knocked out a bunch of times. And I don't really see Buckley going to a grappling game from the jump. So if it's on the feet, I think Bruiserboyev could knock him out round 1. And he's just a tall guy. He's just a tough guy to deal with. So I think Bruiserboyev's live as a dog there. Yeah, he's like 6'4", 6'5". Yeah, he's 6'5". And let's not forget, like his 2 fights in the UFC were at 185. Now he's going down to 170. And Buckley was a 185er, but he's 5'10". Packs a punch. Very fast, very explosive. But Ruzaboyev's probably live as a dog. Menefield Olberg. See, I like Olberg's striking, but Menefield could make this a dogfight. If he makes it a dogfight, then he's super live. But Olberg, if he's able to stand on the outside and just use his kickboxing, I think he picks him apart. So I'll probably go with Olberg. Just because I don't think Menefield has a great gas tank. I don't think he's super clean with his striking. I think Olberg will be a little bit cleaner. I don't think Olberg really opens himself up to getting hit that much. So I'll probably go Olberg. Diego Ferreira, Madeusz Rebecki. This is a good fight. One that I'm really looking forward to, actually, because Rebecki's 19-1. He's looked like a stud ever since he's been in the UFC. Ferreira has been around for a long time, a lot of experience, very well-rounded. But I think Rebecki probably wrestles him up. Because I think of, the other fights that Diego Ferreira's been in, Mateusz Gamrot. He got wrestled up by Gamrot. He got wrestled up by Gregor Gillespie. I think Rebecki could probably do the same thing. And he hits hard on the feet, too. Super small guy, but he's just a fighter hydrant, man. Moving on, Alex Caceres, Sean Woodson. This is one I'm kind of going back and forth on because Sean Woodson, super tough to deal with. But Caceres is also tough to deal with. He's a longer guy that uses his kicks really well. Woodson's more so of a boxer. I think this fight could probably end up being really, really boring. Because both guys will get frustrated trying to hit each other because they're very different. And I think Woodson needs to have a lot of forward pressure in this one, but it's not really the way he fights. He's kind of a guy that fights off the back foot and uses his counter boxing, but Caceres isn't a guy that lunges forward with his boxing. He kind of just uses a lot of kicks, doesn't really stay in the pocket. So I'll go with Woodson. But yeah, it's one I gotta look at more. Robelas to Spain, Waldo Cortez Acosta, bro. Can't wait to watch Robelas to Spain again. I think if you like the Despain side, you'd probably take him around 1 KO. And I think that's a real possibility because I don't think Waldo is really that good. I don't think he's beaten anybody that good. His wins are Andrei Arlovsky, Lucas Dresky, Chase Sherman, Jared Vandera. They're not good. Like, they're just straight trash. And his only losses to Rogerio de Lima, who I don't really think is anything crazy. I think Despain could probably knock him out round 1. Chase Hooper, Vyacheslav Borshev. I can't wait to see. I think Borshev is like one of the most underrated guys in the UFC. Love watching his striking. I think he's one of the best kickboxers in the UFC, like just purely kickboxing. The guy is so good, so powerful. His takedown defense is terrible. And I don't know that Chase Hooper is going to have an easy time getting him to the ground. Obviously, I think that's the way he needs to go. He needs to get this fight to the ground. And if he does get it to the ground, he could probably finish him. So it's a pure striker versus grappler matchup. I would probably lean Borshev just because every round starts on the feet. The guy hits hard. But if he gets taken to the ground, he can get subbed pretty easily. Terrence McKinney, Esteban Hayjivepicks. Man, this card's good. A lot of really fun fights on this card. Terrence McKinney, Esteban Hayjivepicks. I kind of think Hayjivepicks can survive the onslaught from McKinney, but Hayjivepicks is another guy that's takedown defense is terrible, and McKinney can get those takedowns. He can land really hard shots early on. I think McKinney can finish him round 1 with a sub. But if he doesn't, Hayjivepicks going to take over. It's kind of the same thing with every McKinney fight. Guy's good, but if he doesn't finish you round 1, he's kind of falling off a cliff. Ricci Torres, not even going to talk about that one because that one's just a toss-up. Trey Waters, Billy Goff, another fun fight. Billy Goff is a junkyard dog. He needs to get on the inside, rip body shots, and work his way up to the head. Trey Waters needs to stay at range. Two completely different styles. Kind of like Billy Goff in this fight, just because he's a dog. And I think he'll eventually just put a pace on Trey Waters, and Trey Waters won't know what to do with it. So I'm going to go Billy Goff. Jake Hadley, Charles Johnson. I'm kind of tempted to take Charles Johnson here just because I think his striking isn't like worse than Jake Hadley's. Maybe he could get grappled up by Jake Hadley, but I don't really see it. And I don't really think Jake Hadley is as good as people think he is. So I'll go Charles Johnson. Jared Gooden, Kevin Doucette. I'm going to go with Kevin Doucette, but he could definitely get clipped by Jared Gooden. In the first fight of the night, Veronica Hardy, J.J. Aldrich. I'll never bet on J.J. Aldrich. Never even pick her. Give me Veronica Hardy all day, every day. And we can wrap up the show right there. Appreciate y'all for joining UFC 301 recap. We just talked about UFC St. Louis next week. We'll be back here next Sunday for the Sunday Service episode number 10. This is number 9. We're on a roll, boys. Appreciate y'all for joining. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. And, of course, follow me on IG at Hayjivepicks for all the content throughout the week. Hopefully, we'll be looking to upload more on YouTube. Uploaded 2 last week that were absolutely on point. So if you haven't yet, go check those out. Show some love. But we'll see you next week, boys. Sunday Service, Hayjivepicks. We out.